Okay, before the hour ends, I will give you the latest developments as we collate them on the situation in Fukushima. Obviously, more fires, more explosions, more smoke. I mean, you can't get much worse than Fukushima 1 and 3 blowing up when they stored the old reactor rods on top of the buildings. And I mean, they're just all over the place. It's unspeakable. And the media hides it in plain view this is going on, but, really doesn't have people focus in on it. But here's the article that we need to get out to everybody, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. Fukushima. Alert, Fukushima cover-up, 40 years of spent nuclear rods blown sky high. And you can count on government to cover this up unless you demand the truth. And you demand the military be out there testing it, flying over the aircraft. Not, oh, we're going to send one tomorrow, 6 days into it. You better believe they're all over it. That's why when Fukushima 3 blew up, the big one, the plutonium-based reactor, on Monday morning, the fleet just hauled out of there 200 miles down south, just fast as they could, because some of their ships got radiated. And we're going to put something on screen for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. I did say give that to Kurt and Watson. I want them to post a blurb with this live map out of Japan, feeding the numbers the government's putting out. If you look there, that state or prefectory there in the middle is where Fukushima is based. In fact, we've got it blown up so much you can't see that it says Fukushima over on the side, but that's Fukushima where the cursor is. And you notice that they're saying they're having 87 to 900 plus readings of high radiation around Tokyo. That's where the wind turned yesterday and blew it south. But you notice in the area right around, in the 2 states, the regions, local governments right around Fukushima, a huge area, they're saying under survey. They're not giving the numbers out. And that's also in the Japanese news. Mike Adams, what do you think's going on there? Well,
clearly, they're just not sharing the information. They don't want people to know how bad it is. That's been the case almost from the start on this because they don't want people to panic. You know, Obama's trying to distract Americans from the story. The Japanese government's trying to say, don't worry, be happy. And the fact is, this is an explosive situation, literally and figuratively.
Have you ever seen how a mockingbird, if it's got a nest out in your bush, will fly and act like its wings hurt and stuff? If you get near the... If you get near their nest, you can tell where their nest is at because they'll get on the ground and act like they're hurt.
Right.
They'll dive bomb you. Obama's going, look, NCAA, well, sports, meet with the hockey team. And he admitted, this is a distraction. And he's walking around with a broken wing. I mean, it's disgusting.
Well, but they're not going to be able to succeed at covering this up. This story won't go away, especially if people start getting radioactivity out of their food.
But March Madness.
Well, madness is the right word for it. I don't know about March because this is going to continue all year long and probably through 2012 as well. We're going to have to rethink the entire nuclear future of our planet.
Mainline news is saying this could go on for months.
Absolutely.
Cooking and melting and steaming and exploding.
I mean, everybody's getting a lesson in nuclear physics this week, but on the fuel rods, they don't cool down just by throwing a little seawater on them. These things continue to generate heat for a very long period of time, and you have to pump coolant through them for a long period of time. Otherwise, I mean, we're talking weeks. And
the plant looks like Godzilla went to town on it. I mean, how are they going to fix any of that?
Well, they're not. I mean, they admitted today that they pulled the workers out. It's too dangerous for the workers. That is throwing in the towel, Alex. That's a surrender. That's a pre-Chernobyl type of moment. I don't know how they expect to be able to get back in there now. Is the radiation going to magically go down on its own? No. It doesn't work that way. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's got billions of years of half-life, depending on what isotope.
And you're fighting the laws of physics. And when you fight the laws of physics, just like when you fight the laws of economics, you eventually lose as a society or as a civilization. This civilization has got to wake up. It's got to mature. It's got to learn some very difficult lessons. There's going to be a lot of loss of life, unfortunately. It's already happened. There's going to be more. But our civilization on this planet has got to wake up and grow up and start to get real about the decisions we're making and what we're talking about. I mean, like, your show needs to be listened to by everybody who's out there just watching, daytime TV and sports and all that.
I don't know. It may not be as important as March Madness.
Well, I didn't even know March Madness was on until you told me about it when I came in here today. That's how disconnected I am from the sports scene and how focused I am.
You're some kind of weirdo.
I know. That's why I've been told that from time to time for some reason.
I mean, you come in here with baby formula that's over half corn syrup.
Yes.
And it totally, is not good for the children, the studies show. Who cares about babies? March Madness, man.
I'm going to bring more demo products for you next time, too. Some crazy stuff that I found out there, like the blueberry cereal that doesn't have blueberries in it. I'll bring a box for you. I don't mean to get off topic.
No. Next time you're in, I'll have you back in next week since I heard you're going to be back in town. Okay. Let's have you come in here and like go over some of those products.
Show and tell. Yeah, and you know, if this situation gets worse in Japan, we could be bringing in, well, maybe I don't want to bring it in, but radioactive food. How about proof that the food is radioactive and that we need
bring in tomatoes with a Geiger counter?
Yeah, well, you know, GMOs and radioactive. I mean, imagine that. I don't mean to make.
Well, next they'll do. Remember China 2 years ago when the melamine was coming into the U.S. The EPA came out and the FDA came out and said, you know what, melamine isn't bad for kids now.
Well, you know, we've got reports of China. In China, they're making rice out of plastic. It's not just the melamine. You know, it's the plastic in the food now, too. The stuff that's being grown in the U.S., thanks to the GMO seed companies, is, in my opinion, just another catastrophe.
That's because there's so much toxic waste and stuff they can't get rid of. They put it back in the food to go down the sewage system. Now, I'm going to stop and give you the floor for the next 10 minutes before I go through a blitz of news that I've got here. Not just dealing with this whole reactor situation that's become a distraction to a certain extent, but we must cover it from the other things that are happening, the gun grabbing, the economy meltdown. But go over some of the other things that this nuclear disaster reveals, the other things they're covering up.
Well, it reveals this pattern of covering things up, and this pattern extends into so many areas. We already talked about the GMOs. Fluoride now is coming to the surface, where this big push to fluoridate the municipal water supplies around the world is now being revealed as really just a chemical poisoning effort. And the science is inarguable on this. The fluoride is going to have to stop. The poisoning, the mass poisoning of our planet and of our people is going to have to stop. And I believe, Alex, that this event, this nuclear event, is going to wake people up and to start looking at these patterns. I mean, why do we have daytime talk shows that are focused on, I don't know, people's relationships, but they're not talking about what families really need to know? Like, do you have some extra food stored away? Do you have a water filter?
Well, they try to sell things that aren't families to break everybody up. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But we are distracted as a planet, as a global civilization. We've been distracted and pushed in the wrong directions on so many issues that people have lost sight of what's really important. And I got to say this, Alex, in America today, because we've been so abundant and things have come to us so relatively easily over the last 100 years, many of us have become complacent. We've gotten to the point where we believe that things should come to us easily, and we're not willing to do the preparedness and do the hard work and put in the effort that it takes to grow your own food, for example.
Oh, let's face it, a lot of Americans, especially young people, you see, they think breathing is almost work. They think anything is, how dare you ask me to do something. They just are entitled.
Well, it is this entitlement mentality, and I know I'm going to get some hate mail for this, for bringing up Wisconsin again, but there I think we saw a lot of people who were already well paid by the state, but who still had an entitlement mentality, like the state owes us more than the average person is making, more benefits, more pay, for doing essentially less than a lot of people are doing on their own. I mean, I work 16-hour days. I know you do too. Many of us out there who are sort of making our own living, small businesses, people are working 12 hours, 14 hours, 16-hour days. And they have to pay for their own health care if they want any. I don't even buy health care because I don't even want to support that whole system. So we are working, and we are trying to bring back this idea that I see here in Texas, by the way, because I've been talking to a lot of farmers here, this idea that working is honest and it's rewarding, and that's the only way to create wealth and abundance and self-reliance in our system. These farmers are out there. I've been talking to farmers, and they're not afraid of work, Alex. They're not afraid to go out there and put in a 16-hour day, hard work, hard labor work. But if you go into a lot of cities, a lot of people, and I don't mean to characterize everybody like this, it's not everybody, but you see a lot of people who are afraid to put in the hard work to get the results that they want. And because of that entitlement mentality, and because of that complacency, that lack of preparedness, we now have a nation, I think we have a world where people are not ready for what's coming. And what's coming, you know, this nuclear incident is just the beginning, I believe. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got a financial tsunami coming, to use that metaphor. We've got a health tsunami. We've got pharmaceutical contamination of our waterways, of our oceans, of our world. We've got the vaccine issue. We've got Bill Gates out there talking about people who don't vaccinate their children are baby killers. I mean, come on. The issues are outrageous, and it's time that we finally stood up and started having some honest talk about what's really going on out there, Alex. I mean, where do you want me to go with this? I'm trying to get the emphasis to the people out there about how much we got to wake up, but I don't know where you want me to focus. I don't want to get too far off track.
No, I mean, it just shows how when we live in denial and think everything's a joke, reactors blow up.
Yeah.
Wars get started. You know, I know a lot of great people in our military. It's the leadership that's bad, but, you know, dropping Hellfire missiles on people who you don't even know their name in Afghanistan, that's manly. But where are the militaries in there with the reactor? They're sending the police and the plant workers in to the death sentence. And then that means more people are going to die around them, and more people are going to get radiated because the warrior bees are not doing their job.
Well, that brings up a good point. Most people, I think, miscalculate risk. And, for example, the whole war on terrorism, there's a lot of money and a lot of effort going in that direction. But if you look at the numbers, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is killing far more Americans through its actions and its inaction. For example, not pulling dangerous drugs off the market.
Now, what's the number of admitted bad drug interactions or drug side effects that kills hundreds of thousands a year?
Well, it's anywhere from 100,000 to about 240,000 a year, depending on who you believe, whose numbers you believe. But those are deaths caused by FDA-approved pharmaceuticals, approved by the government, used according to the label, used as directed. Those are deaths that dwarf the number of deaths that have been associated with terrorism, even if you believe the government's explanation of 9/11 and so on. So you have to really look at where are the threats to our lives, to our health, to our families, and to our freedoms. And those threats that are very real are not the areas that our government is telling us to focus on. They're telling us to focus on March Madness now. I've just learned that today here. They're telling us to focus on terrorism, this mystical idea, and they give us fear stories from time to time. They're telling us to focus on these bombers that the FBI is even coordinating with. You know, you've talked about this a lot, but they're not telling us to focus on shoring up your financial preparedness situation, or shoring up your emergency medicine supply in your own home, or teaching your kids the value of hard work, or getting more vitamin D into your body, or eating better, growing some of your own food, having some food security, knowing your neighbors, knowing your local community members, having more local community power instead of centralized Washington power telling you what to do every single day. We have a nation now that has become so dependent on Washington that people have forgotten how to live their own lives. They've forgotten that rugged individualism that made America great. And I'm afraid, I actually fear about it. I'm not trying to spread fear on this, Alex, but I'm concerned that America is at risk of losing what made it great, which is that individualism, that ability to go out and do hard work and be creative and get results and work together. And if we had that kind of creativity right now, I think we could solve this nuclear issue in Japan. Why isn't the U.S. military in there right now helping Japan solve this problem?
Because it's dangerous. They don't have a drone to fix it.
Right. They need a drone, a remote-controlled pilot to go in there and fix it. Come on. You know, lives are at stake. The planet's at stake right now. We are talking about the future of human civilization on our planet. I mean, civilization...
Get in there, military. Listen, I went and saw the movie... The Battle of L.A., and the whole thing was a Marine Corps ad with a little kid going, "You're my little Marine," and join the Marines. That was Pentagon, the whole thing, because they couldn't sell joining the military to kill brown people anymore, so now it's killing aliens. But the whole thing was Department of Defense brainwashing. And, you know, they don't care about the troops. They're taking the death benefits of the troops. You know, my point is, people need to realize the amount of brainwashing that's going on. Mike Adams, let me throw out a few news items at people here and get your take on it.